Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. These were the Falcons of Villafranca. It's a small town like 30 kilometers away from here. And nowadays, when we want to spread the word, we use YouTube, we use Twitter, we use Facebook. But in the 18th century, this was how gymnastics was introduced in education. Again, a warm round of applause for our friends from Villafranca. My name is Lucien Engelen. I'm your host for today. I can promise you this is a way out of my comfort zone role for now. Normally I love to keynote, but they've asked me to do this, and I'm very happy to take the blend of HIMSS at one end and Health 2.0 at the other one, since I really think that that's a very important message, not only to get across, but also in the developments of digital health and everything that goes with it. I got some housekeeping things for you at first. We really have to run through that, so you're aware of those. You got a swap card message also at the back of your badge, where you can not only use the app to connect to all kinds of people of interest, not only now, but also during the coming 2 days, of course. You also can download that. The event code is SITGES, S-I-T-G-E-S, as you can imagine. And also be aware of using Twitter, of course. The hashtags for the next 2 days are threefold. It's HIMSS Europe 18, and I think there's a slide coming up on that as well. For the ETC, it's HIMSS ETC, as you can imagine. And for Health 2.0, it's Health 2 Con and Health 2 EU, of course. So the focus is at the center of digital health, of course. Bringing health to each and everyone, from citizens to patients, family and formal care, and of course also professionals. You see throughout the conference that there's different personas, like the ones that you see up here, from Laura to Hans, and also from Julie, who's a student from Denmark, to address the special needs and questions that they have, of course. It's the first time that HIMSS and Health 2.0 convene, not only here in Spain, but ever. And it is, of course, since digital health is at its turning point. I often like to say myself that we're at the end of the beginning of this new era. I think that playing time is over. We've done tremendous enough in terms of pilots. We're kicking off now science that really backs off a lot of the stuff that really is happening. Business modeling is coming into place, and not to forget that patients are demanding a different kind of health and healthcare as they had up until now. And that's also what we want to provide you today and tomorrow. A strong menu of great speakers from all kinds of areas, of course, to help debate also the things that are needed for it. And we really have to come by not from experimenting, but really start implementing and challenge also those barriers that go with it. To kick off, the first speaker of today actually doesn't need an introduction. He's the big boss of HIMSS. He's the CEO and the president for 1 year. At present. He was on the board already for 4 years. He has a strong footprint in consumer-facing applications and been in this sector for over 35 years. Is a visiting professor in Denmark and now has taken on the role as the president and CEO of HIMSS. Please, a warm hand of applause for Hal Wolf. I'm Dave now, Hal.
Yeah, that is hard to beat.
Letterman is the name. Thank you.
Yeah. I was looking backstage at the human pyramid as it was going on. We have a little monitor back there. It's the only way you can see it. And it dawned on me that sometimes in healthcare I feel like it's an inverted pyramid, and the little person's on the bottom and everything else is on the top. So with that wonderful metaphor in mind, I want to welcome you all to the HIMSS Europe 18 and Health 2.0 conference. It is absolutely wonderful to be here. We have been engaged in Europe since really 2006, when we began the program of bringing communities together and sharing the ideas and bringing the thoughts from HIMSS forward so that we could actually begin the process of changing healthcare. And back in those days, the focus was on IT. We talked about IT a lot. The mission statement of HIMSS was transforming health through IT. And today we've taken a different view. In just the last year, we changed the mission statement into transforming health through information and technology. Inside the organization, it's called the power of and. Why did we do that? We've reached an interesting point, we believe, in healthcare that each and every one of you are part of, where we have been making significant investments in our back-end infrastructure, and now the opportunity presents itself, necessitates itself, to begin to use the data and the information available to us in ways that we have not used it before. But that does have with it certain requirements. And the needs of those requirements are what many of you are working on as we move into this range of what we now call digital health. What has changed beyond the wording and the need has been the change in the needs of healthcare on a global basis. We are all facing the same silver tsunami of an aging population, which is descending upon us quickly as the baby boomers reach their prime. With them, because of longevity, we're looking at chronic diseases at scale that we have not had before. And frankly, behind that is geographic displacement, not just at distances out in rural areas, but on inner cities as well. We cannot build hospitals fast enough, and frankly, if we could wave a magic wand and we could build them all, we would not be able to staff them. We do not have enough personnel of nurses, clinicians, and physicians to meet all of the demand that is coming. So the use of digital health as an extender is critical. Now, to enable it, far too often, we have a fractured funding model between municipalities, regions, national expenditures. And the issue of shifting risk is on the minds of each and every government and each and every organization. Value-based care is a way to think of that, where we're paid for outcome versus just the act. And sitting behind the use of information to support things like value-based care and integrated care is a demanding consumer who is really wondering deep in their minds why they had to come in at all and why they just can't turn to their favorite doctor, Dr. Google. And they're turning to Dr. Google at surprising rates. So all of this is why we are here today. And we recognize that there is a demand. And it's a fundamental demand that also says we have to focus our energies and our efforts on the patient, on the individual who we are going to be serving. They're not necessarily going to be in the clinic or in the hospital. In fact, because of the economics we talked about earlier and the changes in the demand, we're going to have to serve them at home. And it's where they want to be. They want to have devices that tie back into us. So this change, this fundamental change, is because each person is wearing three hats. They're wearing the hat of a patient who has something they want fixed. They're wearing the hat of a citizen. They have expectations of what care should be made available to them. And they're wearing the hat of the consumer. They want it yesterday. They want it taken care of where they are. They have no desire to wait because no other system of services in their lives has a backlog in the same way or a disconnect of information that so much faces the healthcare industry. It's because of that and how we think about the use of data and we think about information that is important for us to think through the application of data. And it often gets expressed, and I was talking earlier today with the Nordic group, And I wanted to lay out for you the 3 ways that we often think of data. And I would just throw it out as a construct for our conversations. We often think about it in terms of ownership. And that can be a difficult conversation, and it's an important one. But the 2 pieces that follow ownership are equally important, if not more so, which is regardless of who owns the data, the question is who has access to it, and if you have access, how can you use the data? Now, these are 3 very important pieces, because regardless of who owns it, in some countries, it is literally the Secretary of State or the ministry. In others, it's the individual patient. In others, it's the provider. But regardless of who owns it, having access and control of use are the critical elements of policy that need to come together. And it's going to be even harder if we don't pull it together. There's an effort going on right now in cloud-based. If you think of the European Cloud and Health Advisory Council, led by Microsoft, as an example, where they're working to ensure that the communications of cloud technology allow, from a government and policy standpoint, the exchange of health information and its access. So we can, in fact, positively impact individuals to get the data when they need it. So think about the differences that you're here to do, because this event is not about just the human pyramid in an inverted way. It's about getting things done. There are idea trees that you'll be seeing for ideas to be brought up. There are specific goals of coming through this conference and being able to take back home with you tangible opportunities for implementation. And it's a very important concept because the time is now, the clock is ticking economically, and the changes that are on top of us are very important. Now, I wanted to spend a few minutes talking about HIMSS and the 2 signs that you get to see up on stage. Last year, HIMSS had the great fortune of welcoming Health 2.0 into the HIMSS family. Why? With Health 2.0 coming into HIMSS? Because they represent, without question, an innovation and network capability that is so needed in the digital health space. It connects with each and every one of us, the entrepreneurs, that are working hard to bring new applications that are going to consume that data and that information and allow it to really reach its potential. So we're so excited, and you'll be hearing from Indu in a few minutes about Health 2.0 joining HIMSS, because we really believe that our investment and your investment in innovation will be absolutely critical in sustaining the overall models. Another organization that joined us this year is Healthbox. And Healthbox joined the HIMSS family literally just a few months ago, and they focus on the innovation ecosystem itself, both in terms of access, community, and capital in the investment side. So the 2 complement each other. This is how HIMSS is reaching out to support you, along with the conferences and the innovations. And as we said when we originally came out at the global conference this year, we really have 3 layers that we want to keep in mind for each and every one of you. One is the global space, where if you have the fortune of coming to the global conference as a starting point, you'll see one of the world's largest ecosystems of healthcare made available. From there, we'd like to come right here. We'd like to come to the regional and the organizational meetings around Europe, Asia, Middle East, and bring those 5 or 6 key opportunities we found at the global conference that you found, and bring them here and work on them and extend the workshops, just like is happening today from the Netherlands and the Nordic groups and the other groups that are meeting, that are allowing themselves the opportunity to continue to drill down and work on their direction and innovation. These are the opportunities that we want to take then all the way down to the local level so that you implement them into your individual system, clinic, or hospital. We also support the innovation with PCHA, which is the Personal Connected Health Alliance, which focuses on interoperability and individual devices, and the membership will actually be meeting here on Wednesday. And finally, I want to do a shout out to our partners at CHIME, who are supporting us with excellent leadership, education for the CIOs and the C-suite, because this is about a level of change management that we have not had before in healthcare, and it is so desperately needed. And these things are not light switches. We have to work at it, we have to educate ourselves, and bring it forward. I also want to do a special shout out and thanks to the Dutch Ministry of Health and Welfare and Sports, who have brought almost 400 delegates here today and over the next few days to continue their incredible work on bringing that change management and innovation into the Netherlands. Well, this sets the stage for the next couple of days, which we're very excited about. And I also want to lay out for you, so you know, that next year, because of our focus on innovation, we want to be able to announce the 2019 event as well, which will be taking place June 11th through 13th in Helsinki, Finland. So from here to Finland next year, all with a focus on checking back in with our innovations, our workshops, and our opportunities continue an amazing journey. So from HIMSS to you, to your systems, to your environments, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hal. Thank you. The band, ladies and gentlemen. Hal, what questions me a bit is what aspect of healthcare or digital health is moving the agenda specifically in your eyes at present? And specifically from a HIMSS perspective, of course.
I think it really comes down to part of the demand that we were talking about earlier. When you take a look at healthcare and you project out only 5 years, we really do not have all the systems in place that we're going to need to take care of the population, which is aging rapidly. That is really the key driver. It's an economic one as well. But I think there's another piece too, which is that because we have access to levels of data and information that we didn't have before, you're able to see the entrepreneurs pop up. And you're able to see the innovation itself taking hold because there's enough baseline we've put in place with IT to create the data that we turn into information. We see our growth in knowledge management taking place. So people are actually looking up now, and I can focus an application, I can focus a service, I can reach out and anticipate that there's going to be both a market for it as well as something to grab onto from a data and information aspect. And when you look at from a provider standpoint, it's very hard to imagine doing your job moving forward without the use of extenders. In fact, I would argue you simply can't. Currently, there's over 4,000 peer review articles published a year in the world. If you go back into the 70s, there was less than 400. So it's just so much innovation, learning, growth, personalized care, the components of genomics that are coming forward. If you like change and change management, you're in heaven right now. And if you don't like change, which is most people, this can be a rocky ride. So it's so critical for all of us to recognize that the change management and the change leadership necessary to be able to sustain these demands in healthcare, because they're being driven back for these digital reasons, it's very important.
I think also from the change management perspective, it's also a lot about culture. I think we have a lot of programs in place to implement not only the technology and also make sure everything works, but do you think that we have the correct emphasis also on our people that have to see how their roles are shifting, not only by bringing new technology into their work processes, but in the early days, you became a nurse, and you were a nurse for, let's say, 50 years with the same job. And this is revolving and changing every 3-4 years. Is that something that HIMSS also, maybe also more in the future, is going to emphasize on as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me answer the first part of your question is no, we don't have enough emphasis on it yet. Things are held together and change takes place through people, process, and technology. The technology may be the easy part, and we talk about that because so much of it is data-driven, and we see these pieces come up. But anyone who has to take an application or a thought and integrate it into a system, that's tough. That's really hard change management. And we have to re-educate our workforce to be able to think about how they're going to extend beyond the walls of a hospital. To your point, what did an ER nurse do? She worked in the ER. She worked in the ICU, or he worked in the ICU. And they had specific roles. Now that role has to be extended to someone's home. The triggers are different. When do you know when to intercede and when not to? And how do you train a workforce to think in terms of change management and to think in terms of the use of the information? And what are the new processes that have to be in place to support it? So all three need to occur. From a HIMSS standpoint, we're actually investing a lot in workforce development. We've always done a lot of work in the certification space, and we are in the process right now, and some announcements will be coming out soon, of teaming up with some leading academic hospitals and medical schools on a global basis, which are going to help in the certification of training not only young physicians and clinicians who are coming along, but also supporting full workforce development redesign. So it's a great catch on your part. It's something that's very important.
So, HIMSS in 20 years from now, what do you think? What's HIMSS' main emphasis in 20 years from now, and what did HIMSS achieve by then?
20 years.
It's about dreaming today, Hal.
Yeah, 20 years is a long time. I'm going to have to think about that one. I think all of us in healthcare, and if we can be a part of it, it would be wonderful. Because the funny part about being in healthcare is that in the end, you're going to consume the exact services you create. The old expression is you're going to eat your own dog food, right? And it's really critical to envision a system that you want to be in. So I really believe that in 20 years, what I hope HIMSS continues to do and to support the transformation of health is to support the patient space, engagement, continue to support how we think about innovation within an industry that is so critical economically to the health of citizens, to the health of the individual, and think about how do we get just a half step ahead. You can get 2 steps ahead and you're too far ahead. People can't catch up. How do you bring people along with a solid vision? And I think you're going to see a very different healthcare space in 10 years. If not, we're going to be in real problems. But I think that space in 10 years will be connected back to the hospitals, back to clinics in different ways. And I think care in 20 years will be so centered in the home, even more so than ever before. It'll be quite different. And if we can contribute to that in a smooth way, it would be wonderful.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, Hal Wolf.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thanks so much.